Hey girl, hey, welcome back to Finally 50, where I'm documenting my journey of turning 50 this year and hoping that y'all come along with me so we can be the best version of ourselves together. Welcome to day 11. Today I want to talk about not fitting in. You know how sometimes you go into a room and feel like you just really don't fit? You feel like almost miscast in your part as the wife or the good mom or the good wife or the good employee of wherever you work. I felt like that a lot in my 20s and 30s, and not so much in my 40s, but definitely 20s and 30s. All of my 20s and 30s I was married to one man or the next, twice by the way, and I was really trying hard to be the good little wife, and I was really trying hard to be the good new mother. Had a baby at 28, 32, and then 40. I really wanted to be a good employee. For a little while I was, and then I just wasn't at all. For a little while I was doing ministry, and I think that added to the layers of feeling like I just didn't fit in at all. But anyway, here's what I learned and what I want to talk about with y'all. I think that sometimes it's not that we don't fit in. Also, we all know the voices of anxiety in our head and depression in our head, that they're like the worst lying little heifers ever. And that contributes to this feeling. But I think the big thing that people don't talk about at all, especially women, is the effects of complex PTSD. If you're not super aware, complex PTSD is unlike PTSD where someone might experience a big trauma like watching someone blow up in front of them or watching someone they love get unalived or being off to war, being part of a war, being raped, things like that can lead to PTSD. Complex PTSD, on the other hand, is where you experience multiple traumas over multiple years and you develop multiple symptoms of trauma, which lead to a very complex form of PTSD, complex PTSD. Those of us who are adult survivors of abuse like myself often develop complex PTSD. I also think that probably, very likely, a large number of Black Americans have complex PTSD just from the absolutely insidious, unstoppable, almost consistent amount of racism that we face here. And I think that people don't even know they have it, probably especially women. I also think for women who are constantly in unsafe environments and were raised in unsafe environments and constantly being hit on by men, by dangerously horny men at every point of our life, really leads to another layer. But anyway, that's a whole other story. My point is, a lot of what I'm talking about is an identity thing. It's not about something being wrong with us. It's about literally not realizing that we have something that gives us hypervigilance. So for me, complex PTSD has been so prevalent in a few ways. One is I have a terrible, and I mean a terrible, startle reflex. Ask anyone who knows me. If you walk by me and I don't know you're coming, I see a post-it fall from the wall, I wake up in the middle of the night, little tiny noise, screaming all the time. Can't watch scary movies. Screaming, anything that's a jump scare is going to make me scream. Ask anybody I've ever lived with or worked with, like they'll be like, Grace is a scaredy cat, she's always scared. I thought that was cute and funny my whole life. I didn't realize that I had complex PTSD until way later. I didn't realize that things were triggering me really bad, like in the true sense of the psychological word, the way the word trigger is meant to be used. Like, for example, when I was a kid, when I was 11, I went to a summer camp and they showed us this movie that showed animal abuse, and it triggered me and I couldn't stop crying, and I actually started hyperventilating for so long that they actually ended up calling an ambulance. For example, that's an example of a physical trigger of someone with PTSD, but I did not know that I had it at the time, obviously. And I got made fun of for that. But things like that have happened to me my whole life, and I did not realize until later, like, that's why I've never felt like I fit in. That's why I've always felt like I am what's the word I'm looking for, y'all? Counterfeit of the woman I'm presenting. Even though I'm not evil and I'm not trying to be someone else, but the voice in my head has always told me that I'm trying to be something I'm not. And the same voice in my head is like, no girl, you ain't trying to be something you're not. And then the other voice like, yes you is. You feel a little crazy. It leads to a bad case of imposter syndrome. A bad case of imposter syndrome. And it's like everywhere I go, I felt like I was an imposter of a wife. I feel like I'm an imposter of a mom often. An imposter of a friend. Imposter in my jobs. Imposter writer. Imposter video maker. I mean, honestly, it could be anything. And the imposter syndrome has really dug its evil little nails into my skin. And I do think it's conditioning for those of us Gen X women. We have been so conditioned to ignore those voices in our head, you know, or even worse, just to live with it. That's just life. And it really wasn't until, I would say, so many things in my life changed when I realized that I was being abused by my ex-husband. And I bring this up a lot, not because I'm unhealed, but because that was a key turning point in me realizing someone is actively dehumanizing me, and I can't also take part in actively dehumanizing myself as well. Realizing so many of the things that I had been doing for most of my adult life were actively participating in my own gaslighting myself, dehumanizing myself, abusing myself with horrible words, saying horrible things to myself about myself, being very mean to myself, not being gracious to myself, not being sympathetic to the hard ish I was going through, or just the exhaustion of being a wife and having 2 young kids at home and then 3. And while I was married that second time, and my ex started being very narcissistically abusive and severely verbally abusive, and I was like, oh, I will die here if I don't stop treating myself the way that he treats me. I will die here. I'll absolutely take my own, I don't want to say it because I feel like YouTube will be like, girl. And that was a turning point for me. That's why I talk about it so much, because I realized I had to, for once and for all, deal with this kind of imposter syndrome. Now, I still have complex PTSD, but I have really learned how to manage it through EMDR therapy, which was huge for me, and then talk therapy. And then I also do things that doctors don't prescribe, like make sure I have good girlfriends in my life that I'm talking to all the time. I also meditate and get out in nature as much as possible. And I practice dialectical behavior therapy or DBT or CBT, where it's like different practices you can use, like for example, box breathing in for 4, holding for 4, breathing out for 4, resting for 4. For example, there's just a lot of different methods to train your body to calm down. So I practice a lot of things, but I still believe that I have complex PTSD. Yeah, I can be sleeping and have a dream and wake up still with my body physically shaking. I can feel my adrenaline. I'm sweaty. I still have such a strong trauma response to things. It's so interesting. Even now, if I'm listening to a meditation and I'm literally in a meditative state, my whole nervous system is calm. If the music comes in too loud and it like physically triggers this whole, it's still there. My whole point is, I want y'all to know that if you feel like you might have complex PTSD, first of all, it's worth talking to somebody about. But also, all hope is not lost, because it is manageable. And even though I do have some symptoms still, I no longer walk through the world like I'm a fake everything. It's the voices will come in my head still, but I'll be able to say, that's not true. Girl, you know you're not a fake. You know you out here trying your best. You know you out here trying to be a good mom. You know you out here trying to be a good friend. You know you out here trying to do the best you can with the life that you have. And I'm able to just talk myself down and be like, okay. But for a lot of years, this was a big issue. And I just want to extend grace, like my name, to those of us who have wrestled this. Because for those of us in our 50s, as we move forward into the second half of life, I want us to be fully aware of whatever we got going on mentally, fully intentional about treating it and living our best life. And ignoring stuff like this never goes away. That's the one thing I have learned. Is it does not go away. You have to face these things head on. And as someone who has faced it, I can tell you there is so much hope on the other side, y'all. There really is. So stay hopeful. Anyway, that's all for today. I'll see y'all later. See y'all tomorrow, y'all. Bye.